The U.S. election is 1 week away, and Kamala Harris is planning to make her closing argument from an infamous location today. The vice president will speak from the same spot in Washington where former President Donald Trump spoke to supporters that attacked the U.S. Capitol January 6, 2021. Harris's address from the grassy Ellipse near the White House is designed to encourage Americans to picture their alternate futures if she or Trump win the election. And speaking at Mar-a-Lago in Florida today, Trump says Harris shouldn't be allowed to be president.
Our borders obliterated. We've never had a situation like this. Decimated the middle class, and runaway inflation has caused problems the likes of which we never thought possible.
Well, data from the Angus Reid Institute suggests Harris has an advantage over Trump among those who voted early. It says 53% of those who cast their ballots in advance say they supported her, as compared to 39% who say they voted for Trump. However, the race is much closer when adding in voters who intend to wait until Election Day. Overall, 49% of registered voters say they have either already voted for Harris or intend to, while 47% say the same of Trump. And for more on the home stretch of the U.S. presidential campaign, we're joined by CTV News' political analyst, Eric Ham. Eric, you are going to be really busy over this next week, so let's talk about this, right? We have the early voters out there. Then we have those who are waiting till Election Day, next Tuesday. There have been lots of interviews last minute, and then we're having a lot of these in-person, campaigns. Let's talk about the effect here.
Well, if we look at the early vote right now, you've got about nearly 50 million people that have already voted, and that early voting is going to continue in many instances until probably Sunday. So you still have about 5 more days, and that number of early vote is supposed to reach at least 60 million. So you're going to have more than 1/3 of the total electorate that will have voted by Election Day. Kamala Harris or Democrats are expected to do very, very well. But here's where this gets interesting. While Democrats own the early vote, we have seen Republicans actually increase their numbers in the early vote totals by nearly 30%. Which means on the day of the election, there's going to be a huge drop-off in terms of what Republicans are going to actually do. So Democrats are going to go into the final, into actual election day with the lead, and that robust turnout that's expected for Republicans might not be there because we've already seen Republicans take their best shot with early voting. And also, too, if you look at what's happening in the key battleground states, for example, in a state like Pennsylvania, surprised no one's really talking about this. You've got nearly 68% of the early vote now coming in just from Democrats alone. That's a sizable amount of votes just for Democrats. And then when you take into the account of this fear over Donald Trump's Puerto Rican and garbage comment, and you've got nearly 500,000 Puerto Ricans in the state of Pennsylvania, I think that moves the needle much more in Kamala Harris's direction than it does for Donald Trump. And we're talking about a bellwether state, which means whoever wins Pennsylvania will more than likely win this election.
And Eric, we have to talk about the role of rhetoric in these last few days. Turn it up, turn it down. What do you see? Who do you see doing what?
The final days of the election is all about ensuring that your base turns out. And then if you can use those final days to get any undecided voters to move into your camp, that's what you want, especially in an election that's expected to be so close. And so what we are seeing now is Donald Trump, I think, from that Madison Square Garden rally has unfortunately repelled a number of people. And I think Kamala Harris is going to try to make her closing argument tonight that she hopes will not only energize her base, but also move the needle on some of those still undecided voters, which we know there just aren't that many.
Okay, and speaking of, we have about 20 seconds left. Eric, what should Canadians be paying close attention to in the lead up to November 5th?
I think they need to be looking at the rhetoric and the tone. Already there's an uptick of political violence taking place. We've seen ballot boxes that have been burned, campaign offices that have been shot up. And so I think the concern now is, can this be a peaceful election and, more importantly, a peaceful transfer of power?
That's a tall order. CTV News political analyst Eric Ham, thanks a lot.